The air inside the ancient halls of Hogwarts was thick with tension. The torches flickered violently as an unnatural chill seeped through the very stones of the castle. In the Great Hall, a shadow loomed near the entrance, dark and oppressive, pulsating with raw malice. Lord Voldemort had arrived. At the center of the hall, Albus Dumbledore stood calmly, his blue eyes gleaming with wisdom and unshaken resolve. His robes, shimmering in the dim light, swayed gently as he took a measured step forward. He raised a hand, his long fingers curling slightly, and the very air around him seemed to shimmer with an invisible force. "You should not have come here, Tom," Dumbledore said, his voice soft but carrying a weight that reverberated through the vast chamber. Voldemort's lips curled into a serpentine smile, his crimson eyes gleaming with amusement. "Still insisting on using that name? You waste your breath, old man." He flicked his wand, and the doors behind him slammed shut with a deafening boom. The castle trembled slightly at his power. "The time for talk is over. Hogwarts will fall, and you with it." Dumbledore did not flinch. He merely sighed, as though disappointed, and then, with a wave of his wand, the torches lining the hall roared back to life with renewed brilliance. The flames twisted and arched, forming patterns in the air before solidifying into golden serpents that lunged at Voldemort with a hissing fury. With a swift motion, Voldemort flicked his wand. A burst of green light shot forth, colliding with the fiery constructs and scattering embers into the air. He sneered. "Child's play." Dumbledore did not react. Instead, he lifted his wand again, and the very walls of Hogwarts seemed to respond. The stone floor rippled, undulating like water, and in an instant, jagged spikes shot up toward Voldemort. The Dark Lord vanished in a wisp of black smoke, reappearing atop the teacher's table, his wand raised high. "Impressive," Voldemort mused, eyes gleaming. "But futile." A torrent of dark energy erupted from his wand, hurtling toward Dumbledore. The aged wizard raised his own, and a shimmering silver shield materialized, absorbing the impact with a resounding clang. Without pause, Dumbledore swirled his wand, and the shattered remnants of the shield coalesced into hundreds of tiny, razor-sharp shards that shot toward Voldemort with deadly precision. With a flick of his wrist, Voldemort conjured a spiraling vortex of black mist, swallowing the shards into nothingness. Then he struck. With a sharp, precise movement, he sent forth a wave of inky tendrils, slithering through the air like living shadows, aiming to ensnare Dumbledore. Dumbledore reacted instantly. He raised his wand high, and with a sudden burst of light, the tendrils recoiled as though struck by an unseen force. The floor beneath Voldemort cracked and split apart, sending a surge of water upward, forming a towering wave. With a graceful motion, Dumbledore guided the water forward, seeking to engulf the Dark Lord in its crushing depths. Voldemort snarled and slashed his wand through the air. The water instantly froze into jagged ice, suspended in midair. With a sharp command, the frozen mass shattered into countless shards and rained down like deadly knives. Dumbledore countered with a sweeping motion, sending a gust of wind that carried the shards away before they could strike. For a moment, the two figures paused, each measuring the other. Dumbledore's face remained calm, but his stance was firm, his every movement exuding control. Voldemort, however, radiated impatience. His breath came faster, his grip on his wand tightening. "You always were a fool, Dumbledore," Voldemort hissed. "You cannot win. You never could." Dumbledore tilted his head slightly. "Winning is not always the goal, Tom." With a sharp movement, Dumbledore thrust his wand forward. The very air vibrated as tendrils of white-hot fire spiraled outward, weaving intricate patterns as they converged toward Voldemort. The Dark Lord raised a hand, and with a deep, guttural incantation, a shield of pure darkness formed before him, absorbing the flames into its endless abyss. But Dumbledore was already moving. He stepped forward, his free hand sweeping through the air, guiding his magic with an effortless grace. The very shadows of the hall twisted and stretched, converging around Voldemort like a snare. The Dark Lord let out a sharp breath as he vanished once more into a swirling void, reappearing behind Dumbledore, wand aimed at his back. Avada Kedavra! The jet of green light exploded forth, a death sentence in its purest form. But Dumbledore, as though anticipating the strike, turned at the last moment. His wand moved faster than the eye could follow, and the killing curse met a wall of brilliant golden light. The impact sent shockwaves through the hall, cracking stone and shattering glass. Dumbledore was thrown back but landed gracefully, his expression unchanged. Voldemort's frustration mounted. He raised his wand high, and the very foundations of the castle groaned. Chunks of the ceiling tore free, raining down in massive slabs. Dumbledore flicked his wand upward, and the debris halted in midair, before reversing course and launching toward Voldemort. The Dark Lord disapparated in a flash of black smoke, reappearing at the far end of the hall. "You cannot protect them forever," Voldemort snarled. "I will burn this castle to the ground." Dumbledore's eyes darkened slightly. "You have always misunderstood power, Tom." With a final, decisive movement, Dumbledore raised both hands. The air crackled with energy as the castle itself seemed to come alive. The very walls hummed with an ancient magic, pulsing in resonance with Dumbledore's will. A magnificent, blinding sphere of light formed above them, growing larger with every heartbeat. Voldemort's eyes widened. He raised his wand, pouring every ounce of his dark magic into a counterattack, summoning a monstrous surge of energy so vile and malevolent that the very fabric of reality seemed to tremble. The two forces clashed, light against darkness, shaking Hogwarts to its very core. The Great Hall was engulfed in a maelstrom of raw power, forcing even the most ancient enchantments to groan under the strain. And then, with a deafening roar, the sphere of light collapsed inward, imploding with a force so immense that it sent both wizards flying across the hall. Dust and debris swirled in the aftermath, obscuring everything in a thick haze. When it settled, Voldemort was on one knee, breathing heavily, his robes tattered, his wand clutched in a trembling hand. Across from him, Dumbledore stood tall, his robes barely ruffled, his expression calm, yet tinged with sadness. "This is not over," Voldemort spat, forcing himself to his feet. He glared at Dumbledore, but there was something else in his crimson gaze. Wariness, if only for a fleeting moment. Dumbledore sighed once more. "No, Tom, it never is." And then, with a final sneer, Voldemort vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only the lingering echo of his fury. Dumbledore stood alone in the shattered hall, the weight of the battle heavy upon him, but his resolve unbroken. He turned slowly, gazing at the castle he had sworn to protect, knowing that though the battle had ended, the war was far from over.